We're going to go ahead and give LinkedIn just a few minutes um, to let everyone know if they want to join, as this is our actual first live podcast using LinkedIn and using this platform. And then we'll release the schedule of how often we'll do these. I think Tuesdays are really good for us because we don't have an open calendar. But let me go ahead and see if LinkedIn is sending out the notice. And if not, we'll refine it. But we were determined on 11/11, yes, to make this happen. Yes, live video. So we have the notice that it is live. We'll give it just a few moments. And then
Oh,
once
shit.
we, like working out the kinks, and, sir, we're
My,
live.
my bad.
Like that. Do you need one of them 5 hour, remember those commercials, those 5 hour shots?
5 hour energies.
Yeah, remember those? Those are at Walgreens.
I still got them.
Do they? All right. We'll see how this unfolds. But I'm excited because we've actually done podcasts before. We did a few of them maybe a year or so ago, but again, it is about consistency and this whole toggling between having an actual business, stabilizing it, niching down of it, and then actually doing a podcast. And I think from thugging it out over the years, we're ready for it, especially now that we have all the platforms to pull this off. And you've been doing really great with your content. So without further ado, we're going to get started. I'm just happy that we're here because internally, our team has gone through a lot, anywhere from natural disasters, from one of our favorites, to like even our own things this whole entire year. To be able to pull off some sort of a podcast when we're both aligned is amazing. And we'll be able to be very transparent. But before we get started, let's go ahead and do the official introduction where I'm going to say, welcome to the family affair, where family meets finance and legacy is the motive. My name is Adrienne Trice. I am the founder and CEO of DNA Financial Solutions. This firm was born out of the necessity which allowed me to fulfill the vision of becoming the best mother I could be, and also now as I'm in my matriarchal mode. So what was once something that I thought was survival is now something that I'm ruling in sovereignty with myself, you, and your brothers. It's part of our DNA.
And I'm Avery Sanders, CEO of DNA Financial Solutions. From the field to the firm, I went from being a student athlete to learning the discipline of leadership inside a family business. Together, we built something that proves legacy isn't a lifestyle. It's in our DNA.
It's in our DNA. And that's kind of funny how that unfolds. Maybe one day I will actually tell the world how this thing DNA was flipped to DNA. But just trust and believe that once I start talking to, my parents, especially because they were here, your grandparents, they were here a couple weeks ago. And it's amazing how the DNA or the gene for entrepreneurialism, I couldn't help but not to be one. Just growing up, I'll go into more detail as we unfold. Like I was a Jehovah's Witness. Um, that in itself, depending on how you process it and who I had as a father, speaking in front of thousands of people because he was like a minister in the organization, knocking on doors, pushing tracks, all of that was part of it. And then there wasn't any child cares, in the 80s. I'm a 70s baby growing up in the 80s. There wasn't child care. So my mom and dad, blue collar workers, dropped me off at my great aunt, and she was a town seamstress and drug me all over the place. Homemaker, that's when she was a hybrid, but I've always been around entrepreneurs. Parents had a cleaning business, even though they were blue collar workers, and they retired in their 50s, and they would make my sister and I clean up all the local businesses in a very small Midwest town. Like, got that work ethic down. So from, my mom being a farmer, and that Midwestern work ethic, and always seeing my dad do something on the side, it was inevitable for me to become somewhat of an entrepreneur, and then pass that on to you guys. So I like to just start off with the Q&A session. We can just be casual about it. We'll revisit these when everything is more heavily promoted. But again, we are launching this. So Avery, just tell us a little bit about you and what were some of the turning points? So that there's always never one aha moment. There's always like these different moments inside of a person's career. But what was the turning point for you in our business that turned you from just helping out to actually being fully invested in this business that we have today? Because we've been around for quite some time.
Right. So one of the main turning points actually had me, transition from helping out to actually being like a part of the business and being the CEO or COO of DNA was, I'll say there's two major ones. One being when you got sick during the pandemic, and then the other being my college career. Like Adrian said earlier, I was actually, I don't know if she mentioned this, but I was in a HBCU in the beginning of my collegiate career. And then next thing you know, COVID hits and kind of just flips that whole entire thing on the side of its head. But I took this whole opportunity as soon as I got the news I couldn't play football anymore as an opportunity to progress our legacy. So during the pandemic, my mom got sick. That was like the first, I guess you would say, initiation into like stepping into this role. And then after I had my one last hoorah at Alcorn State, which only lasted 2 weeks, that was my second initiation. And that kind of like solidified everything. And what actually put the icing on the cake was having little side jobs after the pandemic or after the whole Alcorn situation and just not being able to maintain them. So I think it's predestined for me to actually like be a part of this.
Right.
Yeah.
No, and I think number one, I didn't have COVID. Okay. So I just wanted to put out there that my illness was not pandemic related, but it was definitely impacted by the pandemic. I developed a very rare breast disease. If you followed me, you would know I referred to it as Savage Boo, but it was super painful. And I wasn't able to be seen. And at the same time, Avery was going through the collegiate contrast in terms of trying to transfer. And so I was almost upset that you were coming back. I'm like, no, whatever it is, we have to figure it out. You have to stay in Mississippi. Do not come back. I was in so much pain, but the stars aligned that you did come back. Definitely grateful. And then you were able to come in and help lead during a very, very uncertain time with finances and the country just being shut down. And to just think that was like almost 6 years ago. And so since then, we've been able to, I always refer to it as like thug it out, figure it out, because when you are doing this with your son, you learn a lot about each other. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we wanted to do this podcast, because the pandemic right now this year is it feels pandemic-ish in terms of people being triggered economically and us telling people that we need to go back to the foundation of what my mom grew up with, which was she grew up on a farm and they literally weren't sharecroppers. Though my great granddaddy had 400 plus acres of land. They ate off the land, meaning whatever they farmed was what they produced in terms of income, selling the crop, soybean and cotton. There's a time to talk about how families or how communities at the micro level can come together and really put together not survival kits, but ecosystems that they can feed their families off of, because we've been actually able to do this for well over 6 years, probably longer than that, because I've dragged you and your brothers through this journey. Even Kale, who is your younger brother, now 17, I used to have him at the vending events. Like, all of you guys have always served some sort of purpose or role in the business, whether it's handing out cards, giving me your list of contacts. Like, you guys have always, Dorian too has like handed out flyers. Man, I've had my children just embedded in this in every way just to teach you guys skill sets. And I don't think I would be here if it wasn't for three. So just a FYI, Avery is the oldest son. And I have two other sons, and I've assigned each of them something very special. So obviously the oldest, he gets to be subjected to all of the initiation. And then my second son and third son, we're really talking about getting him into the real estate game. We've already done classes together, making sure that they understand passive income. And then your youngest brother, I guess he's into this drop shipping thing, and he's actually doing better than what some adults are doing in that. So, and this has only been a few weeks. Like, the dude is on a different level. Like, I didn't talk to him about it. I'm not into product, but he figured it out. But kind of tell us your role as the oldest and being subjected to, sometimes I go, no, you're going to do this, but tell me, like, how do you feel about that? How do you process this older brother role, because you fulfill so many different things in business and personally with them?
I would say inevitably, since I was the first one born, that I kind of was just given the torch to lead the next generation of our, family. And even though some people may like feel pressure about that, I felt like it was just something I needed to do. It wasn't even a second thought when it came to making sure that my brothers are straight, or, giving them as much knowledge as I need, or as much knowledge that I have to like help them progress faster than I did. So as far as me being the oldest and given the role that I was given, it just feels normal.
Right. I'm also the oldest too, but only out of me and my sister. But my sister and I never really did anything like what you're doing. Like, I think when you're the oldest male, and then you have your brothers, and then you also have two younger, baby sisters, it's definitely like a lot of things that are on you. And I believe whenever you are the oldest and you've created such a relationship with your parents, they do come to you for a lot of things. So, and I'm definitely grateful that you have fallen into the role of being the leader, because one of the biggest things is that generational wealth conversation we have often. And it's important for me to make sure that you are better off than what my parents are, and better off than what I intend to be throughout this whole entire experience called life. So I think families today may have gotten away from that, because we've been inserted into what we've discussed on many long tax nights as the matrix, right? And for me as a mom, just identifying your generation, specifically men, and how I could better assist you be the best person possible along with your brothers. And I think you guys are doing really well because we got one left on the block and he's graduating this year.
Well,
Yeah.
no adults, no more kids, just young men.
Yeah, like it's interesting how that will unfold. So my next thing that I want to talk to you about is your decision, because even though I'm a very forceful person, why haven't you fully gone back into the workforce? We've talked about this, but why this? Why the business, and why not choose work that's more traditional?
Well, the workforce, even though it served its purpose, in my life and on this journey, for some odd reason, I just couldn't keep a job. And I would say, an exceptional worker as far as just like working in those fields. But somehow, some way, whatever it may be, some freak accident or just me being at the wrong place at the wrong time, maybe it's God's choosing, but I would get fired. And I don't know, I just get the bad end of the stick. But I would say, because of these past experiences, I'm like actually conscious enough and aware that this is a pattern. Like, even though I work my butt off in these spaces, for some weird reason, these outcomes are just happening over and over and over. And it's forcing me to go back to the business and just work harder and harder to just improve it. So I would say I'm forced not to work in the workforce. And then two, just the amount of freedom I have, and like how high the ceiling is as far as just like creating a legacy. I think that also drives me towards the entrepreneur space, or being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, you're like non-hireable. And I laugh at that because
the Hilton won't hire me no more.
I know, like, you were really trying to get in. Like, we have a friend who get these really amazing trip benefits, and you've been trying to get in for years. And it's just like, well, we got friends and family, but we want that real travel benefit. But it's just going to come down to just like making that money to travel in the way you want. But that was funny. Like, not even the Hilton would hire him. But I think that could be hereditary. I can't speak for the other part of your genetic history, but I can speak for myself. At the end of my career in proprietary education, I found that I kept getting laid off every 2.5 years because that was a rocky industry. And then the last thing was just couldn't fulfill it. Like, your brother got sick. It was a really full-time parent type of position at the time. And I couldn't leave you all alone with a toddler for like 8+ hours, and he was sick. So that's one of the things, is like I could send them somewhere, but you guys were like a teenager and a tween trying to take care of a toddler for 8 hours. I don't think that's responsible parenting. And I just remember saying to the boss, yo, can I just keep Kale there for 4 hours? Like, I just can, like, I think 4 hours would be fine, but the whole day, no. And he wasn't supportive of that. And then 2 to 3 weeks later, I found my name on the chopping block to get laid off. And so that was really going from, maybe doing taxes as a side hustle to a full-blown, hey, calling up my friend who said he was opening up a tax business the month before, and I chuckled at him, and working as an independent contractor. and then now fulfilling a pretty much, at the time it was a tax and insurance agency, because that's when Obamacare dropped, and just figuring it out. And when you think, one of the biggest things is, so many people assume that you're going to know when you become like a boss. There's no amount of college classes, because I majored in business and marketing, that would tell me how to do this. It's been the long road, because I've been simultaneously being a mom and then doing this, and then going through my own personal evolution and sorting out all kind of quote unquote trauma, and nothing really deep rooted. But I don't care if you have the human experience as you grow year after year, whether it be a divorce or a breakup, because those were some of the things that I experienced while this unfolding of it, plus being a mom. No one ever tells you about the whole sidelining of the just being a boss and an entrepreneur, and just making this come to fruition and making it something that's meaningful, and then not just surviving but eating off of it. And now in the phase where we're at, where we're building our financial practice into something that's more consulting based, and making sure that we flip it into something that's an asset. And those aren't things that they teach you in college. You might get a paragraph, but it's when you start growing and you have that desire and all these triggers that have you fall on your face, and then it causes you to redirect and reflect and create something at the higher level. I think that's one of the biggest things that we've been able to do together. I also would have to say is, and ask you like another question, because I see that this year for you is different from the first year that you came in. So tell me, in the mind of growth, what is different for you, Avery Sanders 2020, compared to the Avery Sanders in 2025, in your relationship with the business, and where what you've come to see in terms of your personal growth, and where you would want to see us go?
I would say back in 2020, I wasn't as locked in as I am now, because 2020, that year was a distraction all over, from social media to, crypto, to what's going on in Arizona, because that's where we're at. And just everything else. Things seem to be a little bit easier back then, because the type of clients we were attracting back then weren't as intricate as they are today. And everybody back then was just filing their taxes just to receive a stimulus, right? So fast forward to today, we are no longer in that stimulus mindset. We are actually wanting to progress the business into crazy heights, wanting to reach crazy goals and whatnot. But as far as the audience that we want to pertain to, or direct all our attention to, it has completely shifted, because we learned throughout the years that value is much better. Being valued is much better than being liked. Just because we can get your refund, people will like us for that. Simple. But what we like and what we think is more ideal is actually being valued from people who are searching for our services, not just to receive something quick on the other end. Now, they actually want to retain us and just use the things that we have, use the systems that we have in place to improve their business, because that's where all the knowledge comes in.
Right.
People want refunds, they don't care about the knowledge, they care about the refund. People with businesses and who are dealing with real life problems within their systems and their business, they really they really appreciate what we do for them when we can do phenomenal things inside their business as far as taxes and accounting goes.
Right. I think that's the biggest shift for us is we refined. And so once we start to become more defined and refining what we do, we have a higher sophisticated caliber of a client within business. So even the independent entrepreneur or like the solopreneur, we still can provide them with the foundation, but we're very particular in the solopreneur that is actually progressing, because everyone in Arizona, it's so easy to get an LLC. It doesn't cost you much every single year. So everyone gets one out here. And that's exactly where we're at. We're Southwesterners. Today, what we've actually implemented in our business is going from service-based to solutions-driven. And that changes the game because it's a mental game shift. Like I could do services all day, and it's just not for our business. That's where businesses should be wanting to go in 2025. You can provide a service all day long, but I think the lack of growth comes in when that's all you can do. Because then you become service-based and you don't become solutions-based. And when you're solutions-based, like you said, you become more valuable. Because in our space, not just with taxes, but now we're providing consulting support that wants to get capital through supportive services. And then once they get it, we're now taking them into the KPI stage of performance. And that has been probably one of the hardest things. And I say that in context, not creation, but to make it relatable, to actually like switch that. It's like a tax bracket thing. Like, okay, here's where you're at, the lower tax bracket. It's the ascension ladder that I've created in terms of where we're at in business and all the contrast that comes with it. And all the mistakes become very apparent that you have to correct at each level. So I definitely can say you and we'll go into more detail with every topic that's coming up, where it signifies like, okay, this is where we are as well. Here's what we found as other businesses we help, and our own transparency of where we're at in the business and how we've been able to grow individually, our contrast, and where we see ourselves. But I think this is very important for people to understand that having a business with your and this is speaking for myself, with my son and sons, because we're going to definitely be growing there because we're a little bit more stable. It is a challenge. But for me, it's probably the most fulfilling thing that I've ever done in life. The challenge is staying the course mentally. But at this point, I don't really think there's any other choice, because you're not hireable, and I don't believe that I am. So we just here because no matter if I do, like, say, in the unlikely event that I would have to take up secular work, it would be a 60-day process. I promise you, because I've tried that before. Very, very beginning, tried to do the hybrid life, and every CEO that hired me, even part-time when I was just trying to figure out the health insurance thing, just doing a couple things, work from home, before work from home was just common. All the CEOs said, yeah, you're pretty bright. Like, why are you working? Well, I needed to supplement income, but it was always so good to work for a small company because I was able to learn how to help them and see their internal, challenges and their growth within that type of month. Because when you work for a small company, you're going in and it's unscripted. You don't get to see the prettiness of walking into a big building where they have capital, gone through the stuff, have computers, have a full-fledged training department. No, when you work for small businesses, and I've always have before I came into this business, and I always enjoyed that experience because you were more influential. You get to see them in a stage where they're not the most functional. Very little technology, which we've all gone through, turnover, undefined, all the things that we've gone through and people have experienced with us, clients, influx, price issues. Those are all the things that I think the family affair we can talk about. We can like literally break down every single stage of and we can introduce to the world our sovereignty ladder, which will identify where a business is at, whether it be solopreneur, all the way up to that the sovereignty stage when you're in survival and you're hustling, and like me, got sick from hustling. We want to talk about that with people because we want more people to have family businesses. More people today, it's going to be inevitable. It's like a cycle of things. Back in the day when the US was first started, farmers, who did they employ? It was family.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the only thing I know. Like, that's my heritage. My great granddaddy had the 3 sons in the family. And he was a step granddad, but he married my biological great grandma who had the 3 sons. He was like, oh my gosh, I have a workforce. And so that birthed something that obviously I got 3 sons. We're going to make it happen. So being that this is our first one, and we'll go ahead and repeat some of these talking points for the next one because we want to promote more of this and just pick up ground and just be real consistent. I think Tuesdays could be our day because they seem a little bit more calmer. What would you leave our audience with on what they're going to get out from looking or listening to us and following us, or if they work with us, what would you say they would get from the experience with DNA?
You definitely get authenticity. And for the most part, you would be seeing something growing from the ground up. This is our first episode. I do believe in the future that we can get this thing to pop, especially when money starts to flow and we can add more into the systems and actually like make this thing fancy or whatever. And just have cool little things added onto it. But if you guys tune in from today all the way until the end of time, you're going to see the progression of something phenomenal. So I'm excited, even though it doesn't look like I am extremely tired. I've been up since 4. I'm excited to see what this has in store for us.
Right. And I like the word authenticity and transparency and instilling in people the belief that they can pull something like this off. Like small family businesses, I see husband and wives. We support tons of family businesses. We really do. Like, that is our bread and butter for our clientele. I have made it a mission for us to focus on these 3 types of clients. Now, if you're not in this type of realm, I'm just going to let you know we could possibly still work with you. But here's where our heart is at. And it's a reflection of you and me, Avery and I, which would be, I love my couples. I come from a family, mom and dad who have been married for 50 years. And they have a very, very nice life. So I always want to bless couples, even though I'm not married. I love couples because they are the foundation of the community. I also love men, helping out our men clients, whether they be leaders in their family, or specifically, I like to see when we help men your age. Like that, when I get on the phone and you bring me into your demographic of friends and network, and we're just helping them build a foundation and we're educating them, that goes off. That's like a heartfelt thing. Again, mom of 3 sons. When I believe that there's been no spaces created for men, I also believe there's an emasculation that has been done to men. But for us to be part of the restoration of masculinity, that's something that I'm definitely for. And then the third thing is, you will probably not find that I'm not anti-woman. I think that space for women has been fulfilled. Like, I love being around women's spaces and women's empowerment. But there's something very special about the woman who's over 45. And those are the women I like to engage with the most, because they've gone through an identity crisis. They're done. They're probably going to started to empty nest. They are more defined at what they want, and they need structure because it's been chaotic for them in business to be handling motherhood, if they're in a relationship, unfolding their own identity. And like at 45, light bulb starts to go off because they have more space as those kids go out the house. So those are like the 3 demographic of people that we work with. I love working after 3 to 4 years, because at that point I could actually do something with you, other than telling you how to expense something. I mean, you can talk about expenses all day. Most people don't even care. They just want you to know it, organize their books, and get them to expand and how to make more money. So we'll be able to provide dialogue about expansion and how to pull off a family business. So I just like to say, for those who attend or watch the re-record, and I don't even know if we can do a re-record, but if we don't, we'll be back on, because I don't know if I pushed the record button. I'm just looking at it right now. But if it doesn't, we'll record it again. Maybe LinkedIn, I'll retain it. Who knows? But we want to definitely say tune in, and we'll do this every Tuesday. We can make it a Tuesday at, what were we at, 2:30?
Yeah.
So maybe we can make it Tuesday between 2 and 2:30. The only reason why I'm saying 2, because if you've ever watched Love Connection, remember Chucky would be like 2 and 2. Remember? No, I just aged myself. I'm going to show you that 2 and 2. Okay. 2 and 2. And he'd be like 2 and 2. But anyway, all my Gen Xers, millennials, they'll know about the Love Connection. But with that said, anything else you'd like to say, Avery, before we hop off?
Nah. Good on this end.
All right, then. So what we call our Wealth Deliberators, we'll be back on next week. And then just follow us, DNA Fin Solutions. We have a host of resources we want to also bring you, but this was us just getting into the groove. And thank you for joining us, and have a blessed and abundant day.
Peace.